Good afternoon, everyone. Superfreeze inbound. Let's look at the polar vortex spinning deep Siberian air as it moves through the 24th. We're going to see that rainbow ribbon of trouble coming through. Bombogenesis spins, wind speeds for you to look at. And on the winter solstice, 21st, shortest day of the year, also coming into the new moon on the 23rd, Saturnalia. Convenient that there's 4 horses on the coinage, worshiping the sun separated by 2 continents. And the world we look at is just so bizarre, I'm hardly believing even what I'm seeing. How do we process all of this? And as this blizzard / bombogenesis / incredible cold event is ongoing, western part of the U.S. starting to experience the cold temperatures. So bring it through the 23rd, heading up to the 700 millibar, which is about 10,000 feet into the atmosphere. It gives you a really good idea of where this hook and the coldest boundaries will be. And a little bit higher, around 18,000 feet, we're looking at 500 millibars. That low will be the center of what you consider the storm. You see where the periphery edges are there, stretching all the way down into where I'm at, East Tennessee, further into Georgia, South Carolina. They're expecting some snow down in Louisiana, Mississippi, lows in the single digits, which is a plant eliminating event here. Agriculture is going to struggle with this. Winter wheat, expecting hard freeze. You're going to have to replant, as well as anything that might be winter garden-wise will be frozen, and you'll have to replant as we move in through the next month or so. Wind forecast coming in on Friday, Saturday here, 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts, but you have to realize that'll be in single digits. Along with that, the wind chills will definitely be something like 15 below 0 Fahrenheit. And if we look at the total snowfall, this is total, not on the single daily, so there is a possibility that it could snow, roads will get cleared, it'll snow again, so it's not like this is all in a single dump, but it'll give you the totals, so wherever you're at in the green, I would definitely get extra supplies. Deutsche Bank, Citi, and Morgan Stanley are all forecasting another 25% plunge in the stock market. The only break in inflation is with a recession. Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki said, "I believe the economy is in the biggest bubble in history." Kiyosaki bought more gold, predicting $3,000 an ounce in a year. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold, and you may qualify for the no fee for life IRA. On qualifying rollovers, give them a call, 888-546-7020. Tell them Adapt 2030 sent you. And now on with the video. So I'd expect the power grids to go down in some areas. You have to realize that the draw on the grid is going to be extreme. You know, some of these temperatures that we're seeing inbound here haven't been seen in 40 plus years. Just depends on your regional area on how cold it has been. But when you're getting into the southeast US, you know, homes aren't built for this type of 9-degree, 5-degree Fahrenheit weather that's expected. You know, these are running 30 some plus degrees Fahrenheit below the normal temperatures. It's going to be a lot of pipe breakage. And when people are cranking their heat pumps and they're not working correctly, like we're going to do, either run a generator or plug in extra heaters around, oil recirculating heaters, that's going to draw more on the grid. So you can expect an enormous draw. Will it be able to help? Will they reroute power through, like the TVA is expected to take power and run it up into Virginia? Well, thanks for doing that and leaving us at a deficit where we might go on rolling brownouts in the coldest weather in 40 plus years. So these are the types of things that are being considered right now. So warnings are coming out to get prepared with extra blankets, anything that you could have. And another thing, just for safety's sake, candles, you can heat a room with candles as long as you block off the doors with towels. Fire up a few candles in there. Make sure, extremely cautious with that. Nobody's going to bump it. It's not going to fall over. But it'll take just a handful of candles to keep that room warmer, especially if there's a few bodies in there. But it will keep you awake. That glowing bright light, especially if you have, say, 6 candles going at the same time as a heat source. And always keep an eye on that. Have a fire extinguisher there. You don't want to be burning candles around the house. carelessly. But, there's going to be a lot of extra things that happen that people won't heed that advice, and there'll be a house fire here or something broken over there. Just expect it to be a news-making event through the next week of the damage that this cold has caused to our regular infrastructure. And looking at the polar vortex structure here, if you look at the ground level, you can see on the left there, or what would be the north-south orientation, how that tongue is swinging out all the way into central grow belt and extending through the southeast U.S. And if you do the inverse and look over Asia, that would explain why they're having very cold temperatures, and Japan picking up on the sea effect snow, the highest recorded snowfalls in 400 years in multiple locations at this moment. But if we do look over the 2-meter air temperature, which is 6 feet, not really the ground. Remember, if you have pets or any types of livestock, chickens, goats, sheep, whatever it would be, the ground temperature will be cooler than what you're seeing here. This is 6 feet off the ground, not at the frost level or the freeze level. This will take us out through the 23rd. Those white shaded areas are right at the 0 or 1 degree Fahrenheit mark. And as we get below it into the purples and the strawberry colors, minus 33 degrees Fahrenheit. That is crazy in the Dakotas. But if you look down into the southern U.S., some of the coldest temperatures, 3 degrees Fahrenheit in Texas. Remember, their power grid went down at temperatures that were warmer than this. I mean, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And as we move through the 24th, Christmas Eve, temperatures start to back off just a sliver. Right at sunset is where these are. This is after the warming of the day going into sunset. So you can expect temperatures, if you're having anything planned outdoors for your celebrations, you're going to have to bring it in. Now, if we look at the temperature anomaly at the map here, you'll see where the colliding air masses are warm in front to the east and cold behind. And as it turns into the purples, the very light violets far into Montana and up at the Canadian border. These are degrees in Celsius, far different than the Fahrenheit. So if you're going 30 degrees Celsius below normal, that's rolling up around 42 to 43 degrees Fahrenheit difference. But you look at that collision line. This is violent weather. And if you have a chance to witness this storm front coming in, it's going to go from 0 to 60 in a matter of hours. You're going to see atmospheric disturbances and some sort of electric effect as this rolls through. And I would encourage you to look down to the Gulf of Mexico, far to the south of the chart, how this is layered and stacked on itself. That is the layers in the atmosphere that you're seeing, which is interesting going through the 700 and the 500 millibar charts. Those are demarcation lines that you're seeing in the atmosphere there too. That is incredible on how it is so distinct, the band levels within that. And as it spreads through New York and going back up into the Maritimes of Canada, pushing that warm air out of the way, which is making the headlines. It's so warm up there, but forget the heart-shaped Siberian air below that. There's going to be an enormous amount of crops that get damaged during this time, especially with hard red winter wheat in the emergence all through the Midwest grow belt. I would imagine that with no snow cover that we're seeing, there's no snow really on the ground there. It's just going to be pounded, record cold temperatures. They're going to have to replant. So we're looking at a major loss here for the hard red winter wheat this year. So that'll drive prices. And last year, coming into final harvest season, they're down something 100-year lows on the winter wheat anyway. So as we come in, it'll be less of the durum wheat as well. Those are things for pastas, that sort of thing that we make breads with, low. It's going to be extremely expensive coming in with these durum, or not even available at some point. So this is what we're going to see this year as a result of this in the United States. And then we take a look at global agriculture anyway, the Hunga Tonga eruption putting water vapor affecting planting in the southern hemisphere, as well as the shutoff of the grain corridors across to the Black Sea, and everything else that we're seeing weather-wise with the droughts. Now we got this. The hope was to cross the fingers that this crop in the ground would survive through the winter. It looks like it's not going to. This is the worst case scenario for agriculture across North America that could be imagined on a 1 to 10 basis. This is like a -5. And for those of you like wind charts, here we go, 10,000 foot level approximately. You can see where the frontal boundary is and how it's going to loop and turn into that bombogenesis as it heads toward, again, New York and the Maritimes of Canada, dragging everything with it. There's going to be some unusual, ferocious weather with this. And as we move over to the 31st, New Year's Eve, welcome 2023. That same polar vortice is going to swing across Europe. And as we look at the UK, I see minus 10 degrees on the Celsius, minus 3. Those are into the middle 20s. Minus 10 is into the teens. But across England, seeing that way coastal down there, Brighton, at freezing or below. And as we march through a few days past into the new year, it starts to get really cold in Europe, and the winter's going to onset. So you look for electrical demand, natural gas demand to peak at that time, and prices will spike. And this picture here is perfect. Sums up what we're about to experience with different levels in the atmosphere and different temperatures in the atmosphere colliding together. But it also represents in Europe the collision between government and people wanting to stay warm and how much resource will be available for the populace and industry to move through and continue to produce our fertilizers for next year. And as a global level, humanity versus darkness. So many levels that this represents across our time. Now, speaking of time, the winter solstice, 21st of December, shortest day of the year. It'll occur at 4:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And coinciding with this will be the new moon, just a day later, coming up through the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, when it hits that ultimate low there. Cathedrals and churches that we cannot replicate or build or even come close to technologies from the 1300s will be celebrating Christmas during this time. Also, for those of you that are looking for a further back, 3,000 year prior type of view of how it was known at this time being the lowest point of the year, the lowest energies of the sun in the northern hemisphere, Saturnalia. So digging into this here, Saturn, giant on the left, 23rd of December. It's the end of Saturnalia. The Romans celebrated different variants of this moving in to the period of Sigillaria. Seasonal traditional of role reversal. Obviously, we're going from winter and transiting into spring. There's a lot of symbolism in here. The food and drink seems to be a global thing. If you have any extra food, you might as well eat it, get the calories so you can survive through the rest of the winter. But what's most interesting is focused on the sun. Forget the sun god references. It's about the sun. So apropos, we're coming into low activity of solar, shortest day of the year. Saturnalia festival celebrates the Saturn Roman god of agriculture, no less. Now, how is all this so intertwined in narrative and time here? The successful planting season based on what types of weather, temperatures, and systems were around during this time. And how is it this character brought the knowledge to cultivate grapes? And it did become the major festival for the Roman Empire, which ended approximately 500 AD. And what I find so coincidental and scary for this time era that we're living in here, I see 4 horses on the back of that coin right there, devoted to Saturn and the Saturnalia. Coincidental that the 4 horses are riding. And also with the sun, we have Mesoamerica on the right, Egyptian on the left. Now, these societies were supposed to be disconnected until just recently in the last 500-600 years. But the symbolism is stark and overlapping. Global society, perhaps, at that time that we're not privy to. And also people looking for signs. So if you were going to look for something to be pushed into motion, whether it's gardening with the moon, and I hope everybody's familiar with that principle to get a higher yield, let nature do the work for you. If you plant at the new moon, which we're coming into on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, you get in that V right there, right into the very lowest of the moon's energies for the month, the lunar energies. If you plant at that time, your plants will grow larger, stronger, and you'll have a higher yield. Well, what is it that the overlap now of the 21st of the lowest energy of the year, overlapping and coinciding with the lowest energies of the moon? Now, if you were doing indoor vertical ag, you'd want to be placing your seeds right about now, 22nd, in the evening, crack a bottle of wine, put your seeds in there. But also to manifest and start and begin new projects to bring them from low energy to high energy through the year, through the cycles. You might look at something on the global level to begin at this time as well. And like I said, those 4 horses on the back of the Saturn coin there, stark. When I saw that, I just had to sit there for a few minutes and no way, the 4 horsemen. So I'm looking at a lot of overlaying layers here because as we look into 2023, United States Federal Reserve, the Bank of Japan, and Bank of England, along with the EU or the ECB or European Central Bank, are all going to implement their digital currencies, central bank digital currencies, programmable money, no later than Q2, which means June of 2023. So I'm wondering what kind of, contagion or collapse or financial crisis needs to happen for that to go to such a level that you will say, yes, I'll take it. I'll use it right now. There's no other choice. Forget the paper money. I'll just take it, learn all the tech on my phone, install all the things, make sure I can get my QR code, facial recognition, so I can access on the blockchain my programmable money, whether it be deposited on a monthly or if it's just that you convert your old into the new. Nobody's going to do that unless it's really in a duress situation. So I'm looking at all these things lining up. Knowing that $13.5 trillion was extracted from our market, slowly drip-fed over the last year, everybody's looking for the one single event. Well, perhaps this will be it this year. And what we're seeing here in terms of old coded information could be used as a start date again. I'm just saying it's up to you to dig through that information yourself, but I thought I'd throw it out there, especially the Mesoamerican and the Egyptian overlay there, on top of what the Romans were doing, all focused on agriculture, abundance, the sun, the planting, and this very special time for Christmas that we see coming in. It's all pointing to something in this type of part of the year, sets up the stage for everything else moving through the rest of the year. But what I am questioning is all the events happening across the planet. It's trying to describe this here. How do you describe this to somebody? Take a moment and tell your friend about that little snippet as we get prepared for the strangeness of 2023. You're going to want to think about foods, storable foods. Keep your families fed so you don't have to wander into the chaos. 3-month emergency food supply, Adapt 2030, and My Patriot Supply. Food with Adapt2030.com. That link's in the description box below. And please join Ransom Godwin and myself every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Talking about these same issues, 30 minutes on the go. I appreciate you watching. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and get focused on your abundance and moving through what appears to be calamities of 2023. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.